Hey everyone, this week's episode is something a bit special. We went live at Tech Tastings Beyond the Till, thanks to the awesome crew at Tissel, and a big shout out to StoreKit, Gift Pro, Sound Division, and of course Captive Wi-Fi for making it all happen. You'll hear from Daisy at JKS and Bex from the Wolseley Group on how to drive revenue after the guest leaves. And then we talk about QR codes, ordering at table, what's working, what's not with Christoph from StoreKit, Travis from Ops Club, and of course William Connors. Hospitality tech straight from the floor. Let's get into it. Oh, and thank you, Chris Fletcher, for hosting. You're awesome. On with the show.
Hi, I'm Daisy Champion. I am Senior Marketing Manager at JKS Restaurants. I've been there for just over 4 years and I actually helped set up one of our gifting platforms. So yeah, I know lots about what we're talking about today.
Lovely. Welcome. A little round of applause, please. And we're going to call you Bex, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Bex. So I'm Digital Marketing Manager at the Wolseley Society Group. So I work across all the websites, all the digital platforms, and all the ads.
And we're digging into marketing today, aren't we? We're talking, obviously this is powered by Gift Pro. We're going to get straight into it. We're going to talk about some seasonal strategies first, because I think that's kind of an interesting place to start. So we'll start with you, shall we, Daisy? How do you currently approach seasonality as a business? Obviously, we are always kind of sitting off the back of Easter, Christmas, Mother's Day, Father's Day. How do you guys approach it?
So I think we're actually quite fortunate at JKS that a lot of our brands aren't necessarily affected by downward seasonality, but I think for the ones that we're maybe plugging strategies like working with influencers, PRs, maximizing our CRM databases. And then I guess, the biggest focuses would be on our campaigns around that peak demand. So that would be Christmas, Diwali. And I think our biggest strategy there is trying to get ahead as much as possible. So, that's finalising menus now, our content now, etc. And then I think another way that we look at seasonality is we'll try to maximise our capacity in the restaurant. And so I can take Ambassadors Clubhouse as a recent example. So it's the first JKS restaurant that we've opened where we've made sure that the terrace has been heated and covered so it's bookable all year round. So opened towards the back end of last year and we've already seated just shy of 1.5k covers in that space. And I guess with that we've tried to make sure that the booking journey has been really appealing for customers. So that's about using the right imagery, whether that's based seasonally or that's based on whether it's daytime or nighttime, and we'll adapt the language as well. And then I guess the last point on that as well is we're very agile with our menus. So lots of the brands will offer a lunch and early evening menu, and taking Ambassadors as another example, you can tell which is one of the brands I look after. We took the same approach that we have done with the rest of the Indian restaurants, and we launched the lunch and early evening menu, but we didn't find as much pick up from PR as we were hoping or expecting. But then we actually kind of looked at where Ambassadors is in terms of its location, and it's around lots of theatres. So we just made a simple change, renaming it the lunch and pre-theatre menu, and we've had as much, the most PR that we've ever had from that. So I think a key point is when you're working in a restaurant group where there's lots of different types of restaurants, it's about looking at them like individually rather than a one size fits all. So that's why looking at your year over year data is really impactful as well.
Good piece of advice actually, because I think that happens a lot in groups where you kind of get put all under one umbrella, but actually the individuality of each brand is important. Very cool. What about you, Bex?
So I think it's quite similar that we have lots of different restaurants, 9 different restaurants, but actually they're quite different. They're all their own individual brands. So we cover seasonalities, we push at Christmas, at Easter, but then also we try and tap into like the culture of that restaurant. So for Zadell, we would push Bastille Day in July, or we'd push Martin Stag for an Austrian restaurant, the Delaunay. So we try and pick up authentic things for that one restaurant and push there.
Very cool. And what role we're here, Gift Pro in the corner staring at me right now. What role do gift vouchers play in this? So we'll start again with Daisy there. What role do they play in kind of supporting the seasonality or campaigns that you might lean into?
I think we've had great success with our gift vouchers over the last 4 years. And I think we really try to, every campaign that we run, we see, is there a way that we can make an extension of the brand and make it profitable by adding a gifting voucher to it? So, even as far as creating a new menu, we can then package that up and sell that on Gift Pro. And I think that was one of our biggest learnings that we had from the start. I mean, if I rewind back to 4 years ago, we were doing less than 200k in gift vouchers a year, which is obviously still a great figure. But 4 years later, we're now doing north of 1 million. So you can see it's had great growth there. But I think there's lots of different things that we've learned along the way. But a big thing is we started with these monetary vouchers. And then we developed lots of different experiences, and we've made these, again, tailored to each brand. So, for example, the pubs, we even have fun things at Christmas like pint-sized presents. So that'll be a pint and a Scotch egg. And even though it's a small amount, it really adds to the brand value. And we've, just really tailored that along the way, but just made sure any campaign that we do, there's always a gifting opportunity.
I think it's important. It also leads to new customers, right? This is a new way of, not a new way, but the last 4 or 5 years has really lent into kind of driving new customers into your business. Is it the same for you? What role are they playing in your business?
Yeah, so we've definitely tried to move away from just pushing monetary vouchers at Christmas, because I think that's kind of where we were at the beginning, to move towards experiences. And I think that also makes it easier to bring more people onto the brand. So you're already onto a winner, because if you bought a gift for someone, they're going to have a good, positive experience. So what we're trying to do is just leverage that overall, really. Go towards experiences rather than money.
And does it drive the brand then? I know we're going to not talk about brands too much here, but does it kind of give you more of a... as I said, is bringing new customers in? Do you feel like you're boosting the brand with the gift voucher? You're reaching your audience? I suppose that's the best way to ask it. What about you, Daisy?
Yeah, definitely. I think an interesting concept to think about as well is that, if you're, just say you have an amazing experience at a restaurant and then you buy a voucher for your dad, for example, I think it's also about what that says about you as a person, about buying that voucher. So if you've gone and had like a premium experience and you're gifting it on, that almost adds to your social capital as well. And I think that kind of extends further your brand experience. So I think, with all the vouchers, it's always about finding that balance between brand-led and sales-led. So lots of our campaigns will be based on the brand, but then sometimes it will be we're reactively like fixing a problem, and that can involve gifting as well.
And outside of Christmas and the seasonal stuff, how are you using gift vouchers to drive constant traffic, as it would be, or constant customers?
So I actually think this is something that hospitality doesn't really do that well as a whole. I think we could leverage more sort of unusual partnerships. So if you see collabs in, retail or fashion, like Hackney Gelato did a collab with KFC, and they did gravy flavoured ice cream, which sounds gross, but everyone remembers it, everyone talks about it. So having that kind of thing that isn't tied to one seasonal moment like Easter or Christmas really means you can reach new audiences and you can work that way, and you're building brand capital the whole time.
Just to add to that, we've done a little bit of that at JKS and kind of tried and tested, and we've definitely seen the positive effect that's had on gift vouchers. And sales in that regard. So, for example, with Bell, we collaborated with All Day Goods, and we created like a sustainable knife that used plastic waste from the restaurant. And we really made sure that felt limited edition. So we limited the availability of it. And then I think the demand for it obviously then skyrocketed, so that sold out really quickly. And then even at Brigadier's, for example, one of our USPs is to be very sports focused. So we did a 3-way collaboration. One with an artist who's called Navinda Nangla. He's really great. He's a streetwear artist. And then we also worked with Backyard Cricket, who are 2 guys on social that are absolutely killing it, and they've basically made a living from playing cricket in their back garden and posting about it. But they've got like the sporting crowd. Navinda had like the brand coolness, so we kind of tied it together. So we found that really impactful, and also we make all of our vouchers actually valid for 10 months, which we find really to enhance like the off-peak trade, because I think that means we sell 40% of our vouchers in the 6 weeks build up to Christmas. So that means anyone that's bought a voucher within that time can't then use it from October onwards. But then what we often find is from September and October, we see an increase in people using the vouchers because they're like, oh God, I've got that voucher that so-and-so bought me. So it kind of helps to use that off-peak as well.
Yeah, I know my wife actually diarises when the vouchers run out. So yeah, just as a highlight of my life, everyone. Enjoy that. What about other marketing campaigns you've been involved in? Is there anything you've been particularly proud of that you guys have done?
Yeah, so we did something a bit similar to that, I suppose, working in different partnerships. So we worked with Izzy Granger, who is a homeware company, and they created a bespoke egg cup in the colours of the Wolseley. And we then sold that. You could buy the 2 egg cups, which would be delivered to the person you're buying the gift for, along with a present for breakfast at the Wolseley. We did this for Easter and it worked really well. But then we thought, okay, how can we reuse this after Easter? And actually reading some of the data that we had, we see that lots of people actually buy breakfast at the Wolseley as a wedding breakfast present. So now we've kind of changed the marketing, made all the meta description of the website, so we get picked up in different gifting guides, and that's one of the things we sent now. So,
And all of this leads to data. Unfortunately, we have to go there. And I think all the tech people will tell you that data will change the world. But I think in the industry over the last 5 to 10 years, particularly, we've got so much data coming in. How much is it being able to help you drive your decision? Something back. How easy is it to drive a decision making using that data? Is it becoming useful, or is it too much?
yeah, so we actually spoke to a few different segments of different restaurants. So we created a survey and spoke to some lapsed supporters. They had been at 3 years. Some people used to come a lot and then didn't come at all. And then some people come at the time, and we asked them a series of different questions like, what did you like? What didn't you like? What would you like to see more from? And actually helped our marketing strategy. We knew that we need more veggie food. In a traditionally French restaurants, that's like sometimes lacking. People want to bring back classics. Like in St John's Wood, they want fish goujons. That's what they want them back. So that really helped us. And knowing what people wanted means that we could respond to that, and they felt heard as part of our community.
Amazing. I can say your nails are fantastic. I just noticed them. There's flames on them. Anyway, say to you about the data.
Yeah, obviously data is key in like understanding your customer, but I think something that we've found really interesting and something we've only looked more into in the last year or so is the power of cross-selling. So if you're in a restaurant group like JKS, when we, again going back to Ambassadors Clubhouse, when we launched, most of our first month or two of customers that had made a reservation had actually come from one of our other Indian sites. Because we cross-sold that and linked it and made it prevalent in any way possible that we could as part of their digital experience. If someone had dined at Gymkhana, for example, for the first time, they received an automated email that told them about the new sister restaurant. And we made sure that that was all tracked. So then we was able to see the results of that I think was really, really impactful. And even from a gifting point of view, the reason we actually did all of that cross-selling is because we launched the JKS Safari voucher a couple of years ago at Christmas. And so this was where you could kind of travel to 3 of the different restaurants and you had a dining experience that was like a tasting menu and wine pairing. And it was really interesting to see how well that sold. I mean, it was a higher ticket price, so it's not going to sell as well as a monetary voucher, but it was really interesting to see the type of customers that did, and they were all customers that were loyal to one of the brands and might not have actually been to the other brand. So I think we really saw that as an opportunity to be like, hang on a minute, there's ways that we can, take the success and share the brand equity from other brands into something new as well.
And have you actually perception changed? That's quite interesting because actually vouchers originally, or gift vouchers were seen as a financial tool, originally when they came, but it sounds like it's changing the way that you look at them, the way you treat them. Is that right to say, Bex? The way that you look at vouchers now is actually doing more for your business?
Yeah, I think it's brand building. I think you get to bring new people, reach different audiences that you wouldn't be able to get to before. So I think it's not just like a one-off, hey, we got to December, quick, let's sell lots of gift cards. It's kind of the whole way through that you need to keep pushing this and you think of new ways of marketing.
Same. I mean, you're going to say yes, right? But is it the same for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. I think something that's also been really interesting as part of the journey has been educating the ops teams and the site teams of the power that gifting can actually have. I think, typically, historically, people might think someone coming in with a voucher might be looking for a discounted meal. Whereas actually what we've found is that customers that do use a voucher as an average spend 15% more than a normal paying customer.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you?
Yeah.
And then it's also the amount that are unredeemed. So that's again about 15 to 20% each year. So I think once we've kind of got the buy-in of sites and we're like, look at all this money you can make, they're really on board with it as well. And I think that's really helped change the company's perception overall of the gifting and how we should be implementing it in every campaign that we do.
And I think you guys have got great experience if you just talk for 50 minutes about this subject. And I think for someone looking in who's not as experienced as you guys or doesn't understand it properly, where do you start? Because it's not easy. I suppose it probably is easy. I suppose if you think about it and write it down on paper. How easy is it to get to the point where you're at now, where you're on the journey of kind of using them as a bit of a brand builder?
I think we're still very much at the beginning, but I think if you just try and be authentic to your brand, so don't go after everything and anything, just go look at the calendar you've got for your marketing and say, okay, we can own this one thing. We're going to have email marketing, we're going to have social going up, we're going to have everything like that. Focus on those one things that feel authentic to your brand and then own that.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think there's lots of, as I said before, lots of shiny things you can chase after, right? But often the one sitting in front of you is the right one to do. What about you? What's your best piece of advice for someone who wants to be like Daisy?
Oh God. I think there's something to say as well about it can be as accessible as you want it to be creatively. So you can package anything up that you do. Like I said, we sold a Scotch egg and a pint for £15 as a voucher. That's not something we would typically do, but it was like a fun Christmas initiative. So I think it's, yeah, just be creative with it. Anything that you have in the restaurant anyway that's already, you know, a feast experience or a lunch menu, you could definitely sell that as a voucher, and people do buy them. And like you said, they naturally then, if you do all the SEO right, goes into roundups, etc. So I think there's that level of exposure. So it's kind of just have fun with it as well.
I guess you do quite a lot of testing, do you? As in, maybe testing is failing sometimes, but I guess you do quite a lot of testing to understand, you know, try this one here, try that one there. And is that how you kind of end up at the right place? Is that what, on the journey you're on, I suppose, at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's ongoing testing all the time, basically, and also working out when to have different partners. So one thing that we saw last year, where everyone's getting bombarded at Christmas with so many emails and Black Friday, and I was like, oh my God, so many vouchers all the time. Actually, we used Sheerluxe as like a gifting guide, and that was meeting the user where they are. So when people are trying to find out about what to buy their dad or something like that, then actually it wasn't too pushy, it wasn't too salesy, and it felt more Wolseley, so it wasn't in the wrong direction. So you just pivot, I think.
No, I love it. We're running out of time. I'm going to go to the questions, and there's a lot of them, so I'll try and pick some. What's a seasonal moment outside Christmas that's worked surprisingly well for you? I think you mentioned the pub. What else? Is there any examples you could give? Something that outside of, I suppose, the Christmas season that you thought, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen?
Well, I suppose the egg cups at Easter. That's with Izzy Granger, that helped a lot, because normally we see a lull at some of the sites because people leave town, especially the central London sites. But that definitely helped.
I suppose it then becomes tactical, right? So once you've seen the success, then it's part of your marketing campaign next year. Maybe not egg cups, but something along those lines. Same for you. Is there anything that particularly, I mean, you mentioned a few, is there anything that you were particularly proud of or that stood out? From the question, seems to lead it. Outside of Christmas, where, yeah, for gifting, where you've seen something that was particularly outstanding.
I think it probably is, like I mentioned with the collaborations.
Yeah.
We've obviously seen success in that as well. But I think if you do them outside of the Christmas period, so the t-shirts at Brigadiers, we launched them just before the Christmas period. But something it's funny you mentioned Black Friday, because I think, you know, we try to avoid attaching a percentage discount, for example, off, and particularly at the premium sites. But what we've actually found to be super successful is offering comp delivery for physical vouchers, because we find loads of people obviously want to get them in the orders, you know, the first 10 days of December or before. But yeah, we've actually seen great results from that. And for the more premium brands, we won't necessarily shout about it. But again, by looking at the data and looking at the back end of the website, we can see, even without us putting anything on social for Gymkhana, for example, people are looking at the gifting page more during Black Friday weekend. So we'll do something simple as adding a banner. Whereas for brands like Speedboat, for example, if we're going to offer something limited for that weekend, we will shout about it and we'll say you can just get it this weekend, it's valid, you know, next year, blah, blah, blah. But it's just knowing your brand and what works for your audience as well.
That's super important. And the last question I'll ask you guys, obviously you're planning ahead and you're looking, as we said, it becomes tactical, so you start to look at next year's budget, next year's marketing plan. When a trend pops up, and it's something like, how tempted are you to jump on it, and can you turn that into a gifting, I suppose, opportunity?
Our brand guidelines are quite strict. So it kind of depends where it fits and if it's got longevity. So if we can see it fitting at numerous sites, then we'll probably go for it, and have enough time to push properly. We'll never just quickly jump on something with a quick Instagram. We'll have to really think about it.
Yeah, I think in a similar way that I was saying earlier, I think we wouldn't necessarily jump on a trend, and it's always about, like with our marketing, it's weighing up, is it a sales focus or is it brand? Both of them should always sit on the same seesaw, and it should never be one more powerful than the other. So I think if something from a brand perspective makes sense and it also needs that commercial push, then we'll do it, but we wouldn't necessarily jump on it for a trend.
Look, super, for the two people that have never done a panel before, I thought they absolutely smashed it, didn't they? Round of applause, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Have some more drink. Go and get your stamps off, Harry. You stand in the corner, please, and we'll see you back in about 15 minutes. Thank you. So we're talking about at Table Tech, friend or foe, which is always interesting. I just wanted to do a quick show of hands like we've been doing before we start. How many of you feel you love at table ordering and it's really adding to your, I suppose, your restaurant journey? Just don't put your hands up. Okay, and on the other side, how many people are feeling like it's kind of disrupting your journey, or still not ready to look after operators or after your guests? Oh, okay, we can all retire. That's good. Okay, so let's just kick it off. We'll start with you, Travis. How do you think that, I suppose, at table, whatever QR code ordering has kind of reshaped what we're doing at restaurants?
I mean, I actually think in some ways it hasn't yet, because it's it sort of, as we've just seen here, like it's not getting the good vibes that maybe it should. You'll hear my view here is that I'm a big fan of technology, a big fan of at-table tech, and I think ultimately, it's not going to reshape it, but I think it's going to assist it. And I think the thing that we fight with, and people that are pro it, people that are against it fight with, is that it maybe hasn't been implemented properly, and maybe it's the wrong format for the wrong place.
Yes, well, at Oaxaca, we were one of the first ones to put in Pay at Table, and also too, we've been using different brands like StoreKit throughout the years, but I think they're fantastic. It adds more information at your fingertips, like allergens and calories, but also too, you can time your meal better. So if you want to pay and go, you can. It's a tool that is there to support the rest of your team.
And Christoph, you're at the coalface of this stuff. You're speaking to operators every day, attempting to buy store kits. Is there still hesitation? What kind of, I suppose, barriers are you facing when you're trying to sell it now?
I think there's reluctance from operators mostly. There's really two parties to this. There's a customer that come in your restaurant, and then you have obviously the operation. And an operation is people, an organization that you've got to manage. It's also a culture and a vision. And I think many operators have grown into restaurant operators. They didn't dream to run the restaurant with QR codes. That's that needs to occur. But yeah, there is reluctance. There is a fear of the operators to disappoint their customers, to not provide the right type of experience. And I think we're a technology provider, so we're providing a tool that provides good experience to the consumer, but there's a big part of the work that comes down to the operation and the staff, making sure that steps of service are modified and run in the right way and consistent way. And it's the success of this change is really important to leadership and the ability from operators to lead this change top down in the organization and make sure that the use of technology is in line with their vision of hospitality. And we can really make that happen. And we see it now in the market with a number of mid-market operators. It's a Pilgrim's Bow or two, for instance, very good case using StoreKit. Manage to maintain a high level of service that's evidenced by the quality of the reviews that they're getting. They're getting more reviews. They're better than before. They get some excellent results as well from a business standpoint, KPIs, costs, and so on. It's really, I think, expected by customers. And that last point is also quite important. The consumers are made for that experience.
Questions? Thank you, Chris. No, I just, we're obsessed with the magic of hospitality, right? As in, like, the bit of I've never been interrupted by a plane before. It's the first. We're obsessed with kind of the stuff that humans do at the table, right? The magic of it. And working in harmony with tech. I think we're seeing, you just mentioned Bow there, and you're seeing it happen more. Travis, do you think that that's where the journey people have got to go on, and they've got to realise that actually that this is what the consumers want, and actually we can still produce the magic that we want to produce in restaurants, but it requires some working together?
Yeah, I absolutely do. Like, I think as an operator for many years, an increasing number of years, there is a bit of a view in our minds sometimes that we deliver this 5-star service, whatever's right for your brand, but like we deliver this amazing thing every day, all the time, consistently across our whole estate, across the UK, and we all know that consistency is our biggest problem. And actually, if you can get good tech implemented properly that fits the thing you are trying to do, maybe that's kiosks in a QSR brand, maybe it's assisted service in Comptoir, maybe it's order and pay in a pub beer garden, like that is absolutely what people expect. You don't go buy insurance now by going into a shop and speaking to a human or making a phone call. You go online, you use the technology, you get a personalised experience. Like, customers are ready for technology to be part of almost all facets of their life.
I totally agree. And William, you spent your career kind of across some pretty big brands, actually, installing this kind of technology, or at least trying to enhance the customer journey. What's your opinion on whether are we closer to that?
Yes, absolutely. And as said before, the customers are more accepting of it now, but it's actually getting a bit of a culture change because it's a tool, and you have to get your managers and your team to embrace the tool and use the tool to improve the overall service.
But I think as an industry, our old habits die. What's that phrase? You can't teach a dog new tricks. It's a strange phrase, but it's true. And I think that we struggle sometimes to adopt. And we talk about adoption on the first panel this morning. I think, Christoph, some of the lack of adoption we see across the industry is a bit of a barrier. How are you guys kind of getting across that? Because obviously you've got to convince these people that it's a good idea and show them some tangible results, right? The ROI that we talked about before as well.
Yes, no, you're right. I mean, we've been ready for a few years. The platform keeps getting better. I think the macroeconomic conditions have led some operators to really think deeply. And again, I mentioned Bao earlier that they were actually the first to I think do this in a really smart way. They thought about it they thought about their experience as a product. The technology was part of it. We produced it. But then they also completely changed the way they interact with the customers. The words that are pronounced in the very first 30 seconds of the experience, we all know these moments are key. And they managed to drive a huge adoption. You're talking above 80%. Of the turnover of the restaurant is now going through effectively QR code technology, but it's just presented in a really interesting way. People haven't been to Bao. I really encourage you guys to do it. It's really interesting what they've done. And I think that's what the industry needs. And you're right, there's lots of restaurants that have a QR code. It's copper old QR code that probably most people don't believe will work. The staff haven't been trained properly. They don't know if it actually works. And yeah, that's going to lead to 1% adoption. So I think it needs to be very deliberate. And again, it's leadership in operations need to drive that change in the use of technology.
And I'm going to be a little bit controversial here, but something I've written down here: believe the tech, not the server. So are we at a point where our churn is so high in the industry? Perhaps looking at you. It's not your fault, by the way. But we've got so many people coming in and out of the industry, which I'll be honest, it's always been the same, right? We've been in for a long time, haven't we, William? Well, it's always been the same. That hasn't changed. Are we at a point where tech can solve that consistency problem you were talking about, in the fact that allergens, all the serious stuff we should be delivering at table, and recipes and knowledge and upsells and all that kind of stuff can be done quite clearly now through technology?
Yeah, I definitely think we are. And I think, if you were going to look at, how many individual front of house servers might make a mistake taking a, order on a bit of paper, versus how many, QR code led transactions are going to cause, a glitch where the allergen is wrong or the, order isn't put through properly. Technology is going to be better at that. Like, computers will make less mistakes than humans. But again, this is not a black and white thing. I think it all needs to come down to what are you doing? What is your operation, trying to achieve, and how are you implementing it? And, I think probably the thing in all of our minds that we're less comfortable with is the idea of, like, in casual dining or any sort of restaurant scenario, how the QR codes and at table stuff fit into that mix. And I think that's the bit that hasn't been solved, or that only a few operators are starting to solve, because that isn't just a QR code on a sticker on a table. It needs to be much more deliberate.
And bear with me, but AI obviously is a big deal at the moment. And a lot of you talk about AI as use cases, so people, well, how would you use AI in your business to improve it? But I think it's almost the same with at table ordering, right? What scenario applies to your business that works well? And it must have changed, William, since you were at Oaxaca. We talked ages ago about Oaxaca looking at, was it Flight Pay or something back in the day? So, all the way back there up to where we are now, how much of a journey do you think, not just our internal and our leadership teams are going on, but also the customer? Because as I think Travis said, they want that now.
Well, I have to say, from where we were at Oaxaca to where we are today, it's just gotten more seamless and more feature-filled. I mean, the great thing about Oaxaca was when we actually started doing pay table, we were at like 15% usage. And then after COVID, it rose to like up to 80%. And now what it is we're not only looking at the customer journey and the timings, but also the data. Because before we were like, how's that person come in here again? It's like, now we know when you come in, what you eat, what your favorite food is, whether you have kids. Are you segmenting the data by asking different questions? So it is a tool that is used by not only operations, but marketing and the head office across.
Yeah, sure. The next before we talk about GiftPro, right? How they're using the data to be strategic, but actually building for operators, Christoph, or building tech for people, for the UX, both on the customer side and from the back end where the customers, the operators are using it. How hard is that to do, or is it a constant listening? You said we go for, how many years have you guys been around for now?
We started building Sprocket 5 years ago.
Right, okay. So I'm guessing you've been through a few iterations.
We've been through iteration. I think it's a funny one. We do listen to the feedback of our customers. We talk to them all the time. At the same time, we had a bit of a militant, opinionated approach about things. You guys have all seen the movies and the books about Steve Jobs and how he had this idea of how things should be done and kind of telling the customers how things should be. And we kind of followed that idea. So we made a few resolute, very specific decisions at the beginning when we started building the product. And we didn't listen to operators saying, oh yeah, but I would like the button here, or I would like the categories to be shown differently. But actually, operators are not software product designers. And we thought that, we wanted to build a consumer grade product to ultimately enable operators to offer these great experiences. So we've been very militant. We have a few opinions, but we also build an iterate, yes, of course, based on feedback.
No, I think it's great. Like, you're very confident in your product and confident that actually what you're building will have the ROI that people are asking for, which leads me to ask any of you, I don't know, in terms of ROI, have we got much proof in terms of basket spend versus speed of table versus labor saving, all that kind of stuff? Do you have any data or stats you can share with us? I guess I'm looking at you again.
It's very disparate depending on the business. Again, how they're using it. Are they using click and collect, delivery, catering, Invenue? We're talking about Invenue, I guess, today specifically. The type of operator. But I think the KPIs that people tend to look at are spend per head. Is a system able to upsell on my waiters? In many cases, the answer is yes. Not always. Sometimes it is, and the system is getting better. We're using AI to generate recommendations on the fly. Turns out AI is pretty good at recommending how to pair wines with the dishes you have in your basket. It's quite interesting. Labor cost is obviously a huge topic. We've seen across the board, front of house labor cost reduction, 20 to 5%. I give quite a broad range, but again, depends how you use it and how much in your restaurant. But that is not something I think many operators can afford to do in the current conditions. And then there's also the tipping and service charge, which is something interesting where we systematically increase in service charge and increase in tips left by the customer, which is quite counterintuitive. You'd expect customers to leave less tip. Actually, they do leave more tips than they used to on the card terminals. When they're on their phone, there's a bit of intimacy there. That's a moment where they actually are typically more generous. That's what we've discovered.
Extra burger, more tip. I like it. Travis, maybe let's just move the extra burger. You mentioned on the prequel, waiters friend. Was that you said that?
Yes.
And we were talking about the fact that we talk about the server and trust protect on the server, but you're looking at it a different way, aren't you? You were suggesting that actually this should be a support mechanism for all these teams, especially if facing the challenges that Christoph was talking about.
Yeah, I think the big problem when we looked at this is, we had two different service cycles happening. We had the option of a QR code on the table that almost everyone had in some way, and then we had our normal service cycle, which was entirely human-led, human-driven. Like, there was no real point just replacing, one system with another if it's going to be exactly the same. So, and we wanted to blend them together in order to assist service, make it better, take away those pinch points where we are a bit stretched. One of our biggest problems in terms of guest feedback is not being able to get hold of your waiter when you want someone. And so the two times when that's the problem is when you want another drink, or you want a bit of, side or meze or whatever, or when you want to pay a bit. So actually, if we can bring those two things into the experience that you can solve for yourself at any point, so our version of QR code ordering now involves, two main things that are different. One, there's no QR code on the tables. You've got a physical item. We call it the waiter's friend internally, but it is I think quite beautiful. It's not the perfect iteration yet, but it's quite a beautiful Middle Eastern designed item with a QR code embedded in it.
Like a spoon?
More like a bookmark, I would describe. So that's something that we bring to the table, goes on the menus, so the guest knows there is a physical thing that is part of their experience that they can use to, add to their order, pay their bill if they so desire. And we sort of message it as, if you can't get hold of me, please know you can, pay your bill at any time or get a round of beers or whatever. And then the second thing that is different, I forgot.
That's fine. And I think, actually, I've just forgotten what I was going to say. That's weird, it's catchy. No, I was going to say, William, is actually the real problem solving here, or trying to give customers choice? Because actually, I don't want you to tell me what to do, right? When I go for dinner, I just want to go for dinner. I'm not thinking about what I have to do, but are we actually just solving this problem by saying, look, you have a choice. You can check out now, you can order now, you can add now, or you can use the waiter.
You'll never be able to separate the server from the guest experience. What it is it's a tool that the restaurants can use use it as a pedestal to raise their game a little bit. I mean, we have different problems where you have less experienced staff coming on. So you can use that as a tool to say, what are the allergens? I can find out. You can use it to retain staff by asking questions like Yuda, like Toddy, where it's like, what do I do in this situation? I'll come back and say, yes, you can do that. So the thing is technology is your friend if you use it properly. But the thing is it's not going to replace a human. It's just going to probably make it more efficient.
Technology is your friend. I'm taking that one home today. Look, and I can smell the food coming soon. I just wanted to get, have there been any surprise wins by using this kind of technology in your businesses? I mean, we're talking about the bookmark, but is there anything you were like, wow, I did not think that would happen?
Two things. I'll try and remember them both this time. Use. Because we have a tech-enabled process now, especially for checkout, if people want it, we're getting, per month, hundreds more reviews onto Google. We all know how important our Google number is. And getting positive reviews, 5-star reviews onto there didn't think it would be to such a great degree. And then the second one is people wanting to use digital menus to see pictures and videos of food. So
that's crazy. So yeah. I remember the days of the old rented tables that had the.
And it's a key reason our team like to talk about it is because they can be like, look, if you want to see what your mixed grill looks like, there's great photos there. We haven't done it yet, but we can have videos, which if you really cool, show a video of a mixed grill being cooked on the grill, that's really powerful, I think. And never thought about that before.
Yeah, visual, I think, is a key. Right, we're very visual, especially around dining, because it's an experience, right? So text is a bit dull. And what about you, William? Anything surprised you when you've done this?
Just seconding the videos, StoreKit has the ability to embed videos into the menus, and you can actually make things look like it's M&S, like it's not just a pizza. But another thing which was a huge surprise, this is going back to Oaxaca, was we were kind of expecting usage of maybe 50% tops like that, and it's 85 in some places, and it's like, how like that? So we looked in, and what it was we linked feedback to the pay at table, and so immediately the customer would come back and say, "We liked Chris's smile, Chris's thing," and all of the servers were trying so much harder because they knew they were going to get this positive feedback. So they were saying, "Yeah, please use the pay at table and give me a nice feedback." And so the thing is that was something that was completely unexpected, but it's good for everyone.
Brilliant. Look, and we've got tons of questions. Sorry, guys. So just keep you for 5 more minutes if you don't mind. What's worked best in training staff to trust the tech, not fight it? I suppose we could do that both from the supplier side and from the operator side. Christoph, what's worked best in terms of getting these guys to get above that 1% adoption?
Again, I'm going back to the point I've made. It's the vision by the leadership and how clear the explanations are made of why this is done and how this should be done. And if there's a strong confidence of the leadership, then the training is well thought through. The staff will not be fearful of implementing these steps.
It is simple, isn't it? It is like rolling out a project. Whether it's a new menu, it's just another project, but it needs buy-in.
What I would just say, is I would encourage the leaders to go out and experience at table technology as customers themselves several times. It's a new technology. You need to understand, you really need to understand what is the customer's experience so that as an operator, you can design the right process and the right solution. There's this idea that QR code is a little bit weird. It's fine in a pub, but if you don't experience it yourself a few times to get a bit used to it and get through that first hurdle, the first adoption, the first try can be a bit new. You realize how quickly that turns into and you understand how you can roll it out at scale. So I think that's a good investment to do for
it. I certainly very, very quickly. I was sat with Gavin in Pizza Pilgrims, and we sat and watched the table in Kingly Court on Reed Street. And we watched the table paying to check out, right? It was a family of 4. And it took, I think we timed it about 6.5 minutes they were finished, coats on, ready to go. And they were trying to get the server. I said, that place is crazy busy. So the server's running around. And we just said that we could have solved that in a minute. So it's just an interesting example of exactly that. The leadership seeing that problem and feeling it and going through it. Sorry, you're going to give an example.
I was just going to add, from I'm definitely not an expert in change management, but I think I would echo what you said about the leadership, and not just the leadership in the business, but the leadership in each individual place. they need to be on board. And so like there's all that bit of getting your people, on board, and a process that does work. Like, I know that sounds silly, but like we started off with a few ideas about how we do pay a table. The ops team said it definitely that isn't the way that it will work, and we very quickly agreed, and like we're open to that feedback. And I think you've got to do it with people, not through or onto people.
Kind of complementing what was just said was the fact that you have to invest heavily up front, train your teams very well, get the supplier on at the sites, do one site first before to make sure everything is working, and then kind of spread out. If you just do a tick box and say, yeah, on the 20th, just turn it on and stuff, you won't get any usage because you have to win over your staff. You have to win over the customer. And then once you're at that level, it's very easy to keep it at that level.
Have we got time for one more, Jesse? Okay, good. Let me pick a good one. There's lots here, by the way. Do you think tech will always need that human assist, or can it eventually stand alone? Travis?
I saw my initial go-to yes. However, the day that we replaced the QR code with like a voice AI on my table, and I can just order from a good AI.
On the experience you want to create. And if you want to have a mid-market restaurant with a reasonable average spend per guest, and you want to control your business and scale it, you will have to use technology more or less.
I think in QSR, right? You've got a lot of experience in QSR, especially recently. I think you're almost there, like, on that customer-facing element that humans are.
Well, I suppose it depends on the brand. Like what it is you want every customer, whether it's QSR or five-star dining, to be immediately recognized and appreciated, and that the service flow is very smooth. That's guaranteed everywhere. I mean, there's certain brands right now where they've completely removed people as just somebody handing out food, and I think that's probably a little bit too far on the other side, because it's not just the food, it's the people, it's the warmth, it's the atmosphere, and tech isn't. I mean, there's one place that one company that I saw doing a full interactive thing on the tables and stuff. I mean, there's always possibilities of new things, but the thing is humans, people want to deal with humans. I don't think that'll ever go away.